We did manage to, for the first time in a while, get in a couple of games. One of which was very new, one of which is very old.
And one of which we already talked about.
That's right, which was Crossing. So we'll start with the new one, which is Theomachy, depending on how you may or may not decide it should be pronounced, which is Sandy Peterson.
Yes.
And we'll give him a little spiel. What's
this game actually came first from Historical Games.
Okay.
I believe it was Polish.
Sure.
And Sandy Peterson, saw it, loved it, and pretty much took it in and readapted it. And if you haven't guessed, added in a bunch of Cthulhu elements. The game itself plays a lot like poker. It's really what its mechanics are based off. The way it works is you're all gods fighting for power, and you have worshippers, and pretty much the person who has worshippers left is the winner. Unlike poker, you don't actually win your other worshippers; they all die.
Right.
So it's more like a war of attrition than it is of back and forth of money.
Right. You can't in poker, if you've got one chip left, there's a chance you could win and get all the way back and still win the game. In this one, there is, but it's a lot harder.
The stars have to be aligned, right?
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Right. And there's also an option that we use, which was the drafting element. So we all
That's
chose
actually
our
the main
decks
method.
through drafting.
We did 2 games. The first one is what they suggest when you use these pre-made decks, and you don't use these god cards. The second one, we actually draft cards from the deck, and we all actually chose a pantheon to represent.
Right, with their own special powers.
You actually represented the one of the Cthulian.
I was Yog Sothoth, I believe, something like that.
I actually was. I'm not going to try to pronounce it now. I was representing one of the Aztec gods.
Aztec ones, right?
I don't know his name, and I won't pronounce it. It's bad enough. My pronunciation.
We won't say
with the cold on top.
Quetzalcoatl.
It wasn't him though.
But I just like saying Quetzalcoatl.
We definitely felt like the full mode with the gods and drafting was a lot more fun. It was a lot more interesting. It was also partly because in the very first game we sort of bet almost all our stuff in the very first round.
Yeah, we didn't realize. Well, it was our friend Garrett's fault because he's the one who started, and I was like, sure, I think my hand's pretty good. I'll just keep meeting his bets. And everyone was like round 2, and we were like, we're all out of money. What was I going to say about it? I don't remember anymore. But we've talked before about drafting games, and for me, like in a lot of drafting games, the drafting is the most fun part. And then once we play, I'm like, yeah, this was good. Let's do it. Let's me draft again. I really want to try and draft better. But I always love games with that. In this game, I think I don't know. I think I did a terrible job at drafting, maybe, because I lost very badly.
I do think partly, I'm going to say this, you got ruined by seat placement.
That's a little bit of it. Well,
because what happened is you were sitting next to Garrett, such that Garrett would always go before you. Mm-hmm. And conveniently, whatever the case was, because I won like the first 2 rounds, I think, and Garrett won the third. Garrett had a card which he almost always had, in which everyone has to discard down to 2.
Yeah.
So before you ever had a chance to set up, you almost always got ruined.
Like at least half of my turns. Whenever
you got good hands, that's always.
There was one turn where I had like the best hand ever, and he was like discard down to 2, and you only have 5 cards, and it's.
And the best thing was because you got the hand, and Garrett's turn just started, and he's about to play. And like his hand's moving down, you just look at him and just go, Garrett, if you play that card, I'm going to kill you.
Yep.
Like as he was putting the card down.
I was just waiting for it. I was like, you better not, I swear. Because I like there's no limit to what you can play as long as you can. It was cool because it used that poker mechanic of kind of the river, but that's like your mana.
Right. Well, what's cool is they used the mechanics that most people don't use with poker. Usually when someone uses poker mechanics in a game, it's the symbols and the hands.
Right, the suits. They didn't do that.
Yeah, in this, they actually did the opposite. They took the betting cycle and the river.
Which is really interesting. It really gave a good spin on it. I mean, I like just regular poker. This was a cool, different way to play.
No, and it really is fun to do the press of luck because I did win in the end, beat Neil. Because it was literally the river decided it.
It was surprising.
Which is because we both went all in. It was pretty much an all-in battle, which was really awesome. And another thing is, if you don't like player elimination, there actually is a version to play without player elimination.
I do want to try that. It sounded interesting. They said they recommended it for like more experienced. It would be like a longer game.
Right.
But this game took forever, so I don't know how much I can trust that because it's our group. It always takes forever. That happens in regular poker too, though. And I think like that was kind of my only criticism is that. It felt like, although I don't know if I can really say this based on how the game ended, but it felt like once one player had a lead, it's really hard to come back up, unlike poker. But Neil,
that's actually the thing. I didn't feel like, because I had that lead in the beginning.
Yeah, I would say for most of the game.
Yeah, no, most of the game, and then there came to a point. I don't know what happened. I'm pretty sure it was Neil. Neil knocked me down to like my last initiates.
Yeah, which I
I was able to pull up because I happened to conveniently draft a bunch of cards which gave me initiates enough to be able to challenge him in that last all-in match.
No, it was interesting, and so I definitely feel like I want to like knowing more of the cards.
I think definitely playing this game is one of those games that it becomes more fun the more you play it.
Yeah, it's Theomachy, but still pretty great concept.
And also knowing more about the gods for choosing and stuff.
Yeah, I did. Also, yeah, I would next time Was that a thing they recommended, or was that just you decided?
What?
Putting out the piles and then.
They say you randomly chose, so I just assumed that would be the best way.
Yeah.
And I didn't want the thing is I didn't want all of us to read through every single one.
I completely agree with that decision, but after the fact, I was like, I didn't like. Some people had way better gods than I did. In my opinion, I didn't really care for my play style. But overall, it was pretty great. So that's a new thing that we did. Old thing that we did was Dominion.
Right. Not particularly the Dominion base. We actually had pretty much a random mix from everything.
Yes, we had
from like cornucopia to
whatever, all the expansions pretty much. I don't know. I don't think we need to talk about this too much because like everybody knows what Dominion is at this point. But we did play with 6 people.
Right.
And the thing that I think that I took away from it was the game went a lot quicker than it normally does.
Yeah.
Piles got taken up a lot faster.
What also was funny was the person who won was like someone that no one was paying attention to.
Right. Because what I think happened, what we said was most of us were trying to, like you do in these kinds of games,
build your deck engine to start buying, and Ivan focused solely on points.
Right.
So because there's so many people focusing on that, we emptied 3 piles really fast. Well, because he only bought points, it ended up with like I think you had like 11 or something.
I don't remember.
You had like 14.
Yeah.
Because you had 14, Garrett had 15, I had 17. I'm like, oh, we're all really close, and Ivan's like, I have like 28.
Right, just because he was the one buying them. Yeah, it's a weird. Yeah, you really have to be wary of that when the games like that where it's like your decision is to get points or build your stuff. It's an interesting thing, and
of course, as we mentioned before, we also played
Crossing.
Crossing, thank you.
Yeah, that was fun.
Which was fun, and you just got some amazing points. And who was I? Was it Garrett? No, Neil. Me and Neil kept pointing at the same mushroom.
Right. You were having a real pointing.
We were too synced.
The other thing about that game is like, depending like where you're sitting at the table, can definitely impact where you point. Because even just by unconsciously, your first instinct is to point closer to you. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing. We had a lot of interesting seating placement things. Although not really. The other weird thing about that Dominion game too, going back to it, was there were no attack cards out, so there was no interaction.
The weird thing to me was almost all of them involved buying.
Yes.
And I think that's another reason why this game went fast.
A lot of that too. So like, I was never buying the gold and silver pieces because everything gave me money.
Well, it's not even gave me money. It'd be like when you buy something, take another card lower than
that too. Yeah, it was weird. It was interesting. So yeah, there's a lot of combinations we haven't tried.
But we did enjoy because we actually since like we said in a long time playing games. It's been a while since we really had that game night, and it was good to go back to our roots.
Yeah, back to our roots that we're steeped in every single day.